everything. Suki, are you okay with the questions that we've got? Is there anything in particular you want us to maybe steer away from or ask?
No, I really like the questions. I could talk for days and nights about competitions. So yeah, it doesn't.
You can.
I'll run with it. It's all good.
I'm very excited to learn about this because one of my students is currently doing a competition, and I saw her competition pop up. I'm like, wait till we spoke to Suki, because there might be some things that you need to know, because, and I guess we'll get into that. I'm just seeing so many people getting scammed with competitions, especially like on Instagram. Yes, I don't want that to happen to her. Especially as she's a new student of mine, and then it's going to make me look bad. So if I don't protect her, basically. Cool. All right. It is your turn, Clem, to do the intro this time. I get to sit back and relax. And then do you want me to do, are you going to do the before we dive into the questions disclaimer?
Yeah, I'll do the before we dive in, and then if you want to just go right into the question.
So what's the difference? All right, cool. Yeah, so we'll get started with that. I love me a good what question, like the what, why, how. Awesome. All right, I reckon let's kick things off.
Okay. Suki K is a speaker, author, teacher, competition strategist, and a die-hard Killers fan. Suki is the world's first and only dedicated competition expert and strategist, and it's fair to say that she is obsessed with competitions, namely sharing her knowledge and passion with business owners and marketers alike through teaching, speaking, and writing about all things competitions. Suki is Japanese and Dutch by name, English by birth, and Aussie by choice. Elle parle aussi couramment le français. When she's not nerding out over competitions, you'll find her on the beach with her rescue dog Stella and trying to get through all the books that she buys, then never reads, which is something I do, or singing along at the top of her lungs to her own private Killers karaoke. Suki, bienvenue to the Mad Marketing Moms podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so pleased you did the introduction, Clem, because I couldn't. I don't speak French, so that would have been really awkward.
It's funny because that's the one way that Suki and I connected to each other in a Facebook group years ago, was because of something that one of us said in French, and then the other one went, "Hey, you speak French? Oh, cool." And then we just started talking. Yeah. So before we go off into another tangent, before we dive into these questions, Suki, like us, is based here in Australia. She's based in Brisbane. So some of this advice may not be applicable to you, especially if you are overseas, even between the US and here in Australia. And I know that some people in the States think that Australia is just the US down under. The rules surrounding competitions and giveaways vary. They can even vary by state. So please get in touch with your local gaming commission or local gaming association, gambling association, for whatever information on what you need to know and what you can and cannot do in competitions. So let's go ahead. Let's dive right in.
Basically, Clem's saying, don't come at us, okay? Yep, you got to get your legal stuff in order. Suki, so lovely to have you here. Let's start with the bare basics of this, because as we were formulating our questions, this sort of popped into my mind, and that is, what is the difference between a competition and a giveaway? Because I know we sometimes use those terms interchangeably. So give us the formal definition, if you will, or what those key differences are.
Yeah, for sure. It's quite an important one because people use them interchangeably but don't necessarily understand them. But realistically, for us Australians, the difference between a competition and a giveaway is zero. There's really no big difference. You can use the word giveaway for things that are given away without needing anything in return. For example, if you have a stand at an expo and you're giving away USB sticks or t-shirts or gimmicky giveaways with your branding on it, that's a giveaway. But then in a competition, the prize that you're giving away is also a giveaway. I would say that competition is the umbrella term for all types of this type of marketing competitions where you're giving away a prize and ideally want something in return. Giveaway is another word for the same thing. For our American and Canadian friends, there is a difference between a contest and a sweepstake. I don't know if you want me to dive into this now, but
go ahead.
Yeah, so a contest is essentially where you're competing with other people for a prize. So that's more going to be like your games of skill. So submit 25 words or less to win. So a contest is more like a game of skill, which is where people are competing against each other to win a prize. So essentially the 25 words or less, or submitting photos, and you're judged on the skill of your entry. And a sweepstake is more where everyone goes into a hat. It's pretty much just your name and your email or your address or whatever other detail, and a winner is picked at random. So in America, they call them contest and sweepstake. Here, we'd call them game of chance and game of skill. So that, but competition still is the umbrella term for all types of marketing like this.
Okay. I'm sure you see a few mistakes here and there with small business owners, but what's the biggest one that you see they do time and time again when it comes to running competitions?
Excellent question. Instead of singling out particular problems or particular things that people do, I'm going to say the biggest thing really is not thinking about why they're doing a competition. So they see a big brand on social media doing a competition or giving something away or this amazing prize that they want to win. And they think, oh, I could totally do that for my brand. So then they cobble together something and they Google some stuff and they copy what they've seen other people do. And they just do the giveaway or the competition for the sake of doing it. And they don't think, hang on a second, this big company is running it for a strategic reason. There is a reason that the whole team has sat down and thought the way to get this result for us is a competition. It's not a competition for competition's sake. When you run a competition, you really need to have a goal. You really need to have a reason. You really need to have a destination or an endpoint in mind when you go into it. So I'd say it doesn't really matter what other mistakes or common mistakes people make. If you can avoid that big one, all of the others fall by the wayside.
It's something that has stuck with me since the first time I spoke with you about competitions a few years back, is that you said a competition's not just for running a competition in popularity. The whole strategic basis of a competition is to get more customers and clients to like your brand and to engage with you. And that's and I think you hit the nail on the head, is that so many small business owners just don't even think about that. They just think a competition's like a shiny bauble within their whole mix.
Yeah, exactly. And then they get really disappointed when they don't get anything back from the competition. And some people give away something that's really valuable, especially when they're a service-based business and they're giving away their time or their expertise. And they're like, oh, I don't really know why I did that. I feel really unfulfilled and really shallow. And then, of course, they never do a competition again. So, yeah, for me, it's really like, at the end of the day, the reason you're running competitions is to gather a community, to gather your audience, and to nurture them through the process of hopefully becoming a customer, or they fall away because they're not your ideal customer. So you really have to think about, what am I getting from this? And I would say this is the time when you can totally be selfish. I know we're not used to it, but you can totally be selfish and say, what's in this for me? Why am I doing this? And then think about why your audience would enter.
Suki, take us through then what a competition strategy should look like. High level, of course, but we want to obviously be having that strategy behind what it is that we're doing. So where would you start when it comes to a strategy?
Yeah, so I would say start at the end. I know it seems a bit on its head, but you would start at the end. You would start with what you actually want to achieve, and then you'd work back from there. And it's the same with setting the dates. It's the same with setting your goal. It's the same with deciding who you're going to reach or where you're going to post your competition. You always start at the end point. So a competition for me has three main parts. So it has the before the competition launches, whilst the competition is live, and then after the competition's closed. And the after the competition's closed part is what a lot of people forget. And a lot of people also don't pay attention during the competition. So they launch it, it's all about the launch, and then they just forget it and they wander away. Oh, it's not working, or oh, I don't know what I'm doing anyway, or no one's entering, so I'm just going to let it die quietly in the corner and then not do anything with it. High level strategy would be, before the competition, think about what you want to achieve, who you're going to reach with your competition, the classic who, what, when, where, why, how, where you're going to post it, how long it's going to be open for, what channels you're going to post it on, what kind of entries you're going to collect, because there's a really big difference between likes on social media and emails, massive difference. So once you've done that pre-planning, you've got your strategy really solid and you know what you want to achieve and roughly how you're going to achieve it, then you need to have a plan in place for what you're going to do whilst the competition's open. So that's going to include what you're going to post and where, how you're going to describe your competition, how often you're going to talk about your competition, how you're going to fit it in overtly and covertly. So when I say overtly, a big picture on social media that says enter now to win, and a picture of the prize, super overt, everyone knows it's a competition, people are going to click through and satisfy the curiosity. Or you can do things like, this is the latest results that have got, if you want to get results like them, don't forget there's a chance to enter and win an experience just like them, kind of thing. So bringing it into your everyday posts. Once the competition is over, this is where the real work begins. And this is where you need to nurture those people that you've attracted so that they become customers. Because it's all well and good getting 6,000 entries for a competition, but if you don't do anything with those 6,000 entries, you may as well have just got 6. It doesn't mean anything. So you need to have a plan in place for how you're then going to turn those people who have seen your brand, who have liked your prize, which should usually be your product or service, and now they're going, okay, what's next? Tell me what to do next. So you really need to guide them down that garden path and down those email funnels and however else you nurture your audience to become customers.
And I like you said that you... And I like that you said that the prize should ideally be your product or service. We're not just giving away iPads, is that right?
Yeah, please don't give away iPads unless you're Apple. And even then, have you ever noticed how iPad never give away their products? Like, they don't need to. Yeah. And a lot of people say to me, oh, but Suki, I'm an accountant, or I'm whatever other thing they perceive to be boring. I would say to them, if people pay for your product or service, then they would want to win your product or service. You're in business, so you're spruiking what you do for a living. That's going to help you guarantee and avoid some of those spammers and scammers that you mentioned at the start, and guarantee the people that you're attracting are going to turn into customers because they're entering your competition saying, this is an amazing prize, I want to win it. And if you're giving away your own product or service, that's also them saying, this is an amazing product or service, I want to buy it. Yeah, always stick to your own product or service. The only exception to that would be if you're grouping your prize in with other businesses who are also similar and relevant, and then your prize becomes part of a package, which is a bit of a sneaky, not sneaky, but a psychological way of really pumping up the value of your prize and really reaching a lot more people as well, because you're partnering with other businesses.
So by the sounds of it, like you with the strategy and stuff, there's a lot of like little moving parts and such. What are some of those, I guess, rules of thumb that we should know about? I guess they might actually be like little psychological tips that people might want to consider when they are building their competition and the workflow that's going to be involved. What are some of those like rules of thumb? I hate using that phrase, but what are some of those rules of thumb that we should know about?
Yeah, of course. There's two really that stick out to me, and this is from experience with what people usually ask me on when we're having a chat through the strategy and I'm getting some information from them. So two things people usually come back to are, how long should my competition be open and how much should my prize be worth? So the first question with how long you should be open, it depends on how much your prize is worth, because if you're giving away a $10 something or other, people aren't going to wait 5 months to see if they've won. If you're giving away a $50,000 something or other, people will probably be quite happy to wait 5 months to see if they've won. So the value of your prize and the length of your competition are quite interconnected. But I would say with the length, it really needs to be open long enough for you to achieve the result that you want from your competition. So if you're aiming to get 1,000 survey responses so that you can gather that feedback and develop the next product for your business, you need to have a think, am I going to get 400 responses in a day, or am I going to get 4 responses in a day? And then plan how long you need to be open in order to achieve that goal. And also when it comes to the value of the prize, obviously it's going to depend on your product or service, but it's not, the one thing that it does not depend on is the dollar value. So you could give away something, and I've seen competitions that have $10 prizes that have gone viral because it's something, I think it was actually a night light. So when dads take kids to the toilet in the middle of the night, they don't have to turn on the light and disturb everyone in the house. There's a little tiny night light, and it makes taking kids to the toilet in the night, really easy. So that is worth so much more than $10 to parents. It just went viral, it went crazy. And then there's other competitions I've seen that have $100,000+ prizes, and they only get a few entries. So it's not about the dollar value, it's about how much your particular audience values that product or service.
Does that also correlate with, say, the amount that an entrant would have to do to win as well, the value of the prize? So if you've got a really small prize, don't make them jump through hoops. But if you've got a very high value prize, yeah, you might be able to have some leg room into making them do a little bit more.
100% correct. Yeah, definitely. So if you're just asking people to pop their name and email in, you can keep the prize value really low. If you're asking them to submit 25 words or less, that's going to require effort. People are going to need to have a little bit more incentive to do that. And if you're asking them to complete a 25 question survey so that you can develop that next product for your business, you're going to need to give them enough of a reason to complete all 25 questions, because they know that they're giving you something valuable. So they're going to want the chance to win something valuable in return. It's a good point.
So when you are running a competition, either for yourself on behalf of your client, Suki, what tools are you using to manage competitions? Now, I've heard of the random name picker tool before. So if you're getting people to comment on an Instagram post, for example, that automatically goes through and picks a name. I'm assuming you've maybe got some more sophisticated options and examples that you could share with us.
Yeah, look, I still use good old random number generators and name pickers for when it's relevant. I personally don't usually run any kind of competition that involves commenting or liking on social media for my clients, simply because the value isn't there. There's so many steps from someone following or liking you on social media to becoming a customer that are cut out when you go straight for the email. So you cut out about 3 or 4 steps when you get their email and you get them straight on your list. In terms of that, I would usually recommend running a competition on your website. I know not everyone has the savvy to add pages to their website or to add a form or things like that, or the budget to pay someone to do it. There are a lot of tools that you can use. MailChimp, for example, which I think is still free for up to 500 or 1,000 contacts now.
Still free. Yep.
Yeah, so they have a page. You can actually create a page or a form in there, even if it's just a simple form, and then the email addresses go straight into MailChimp and you can email them from there. So you don't have to spend hours, you don't need to be an expert, you don't have to spend a lot of money, but I would, if you can, always go for the name and the email. So yeah, websites, there's heaps of doing the competition on your website, there's heaps of free tools. There's also paid apps such as Gleam and ShortStack. So Gleam would probably be my go-to. They're Australian, but also they're just super simple, have heaps and heaps of connectivity to other apps and things, heaps of options for entries as well. The only thing I don't love about their platform is they do sometimes give extra entries for likes on social media, which is not technically illegal, and I do that in inverted commas, but is a bit of a gray area in the rules. So it's not strictly prohibited, but it is very strongly hinted at that it's not a desired thing for you to do on social media. So I would, just be cautious of that one with Gleam.
Yeah, it's not a hard and fast rule, it's a guideline.
Yeah.
That may get your account cancelled. One of those guidelines.
It's not worth the risk. And also all you're getting for it is the payoff isn't there.
Yeah. With Gleam, can you, because I haven't heard of this before, what does it do? Does it connect in with your Instagram account, for example, or is it just giving you a landing page where people are entering?
So essentially it's an entry point for your entrants. So you would give people a link, or you would embed the form on your website, and then people would enter their name, would enter their email, and then it gives you extra drop-down options for extra entry. So then it would say, follow us on Instagram, and then there would be a link, and then it would count it as an extra entry if they did actually complete that action. Or it would be, make sure you share something on social media, and you can also pick a winner a lot easier from that app as well, because it calculates all the extra entries and things for you. Otherwise, it's a bit of a manual process. If you just have the MailChimp name and email address form, you would then need to download a spreadsheet, and that's where your random number generator comes in to pick a line number from the spreadsheet that then becomes your winner.
Got it.
And I think the other platform you mentioned was ShortStack. as well?
Yeah, so Short Stack is very similar to Gleam. It has some different functionality. From memory, it's a little bit more expensive. It's also American owned. So, the kind of what's permitted there might not be permitted here. So you have to be careful of that. They also, from memory, allow file uploads. So if you want to collect pictures from people, they change over time and they are all very similar. Realistically, it's probably going to come down to pricing. So have a look at the pricing and the functionality and decide which app is best for you. But if you can get away with it, name and email is always best.
So let's talk like after the competition has launched and you're getting in entrants. How do you avoid those spammers and scammers, or I think what you like to call them as prize pigs, who just pretty much just enter competitions just for the sake of it? How do you avoid that trifecta of crappy entrants?
Yeah. Yes. Prize pigs. They're the bane of my existence, but at the same time, I've also learnt to love them because they've taught me so much. So just to explain what a prize pig is, as you said, someone who enters competitions for a living. So they sniff out competitions like a pig sniffs out truffles, and they enter. They don't care about the brand. They don't necessarily care about the prize. They care about the value. A lot of times they will on-sell it to pay bills. One of the worst things I've ever had happen was it was like find out the answer on the website, and a prize pig went through the website, got the answer and posted it on a prize pig forum. So no one else had to go to the website and do the work. They just got the answer straight away, which was really disappointing. They've taught me a lot about running better competitions. So my number one tip for avoiding these people, and look, this doesn't happen every competition, so don't be afraid. My number one tip would be the better you can tailor your competition to attract your ideal client, the less likely it is that your prize pig will find your competition and enter. So say, for example, you're a business coach and you're offering a 3-month coaching package and some downloadable journals and some cue cards or some extra support and some hours with you. A prize pig is not going to want that prize if they don't have a business. So a really tailored prize that's designed for your ideal audience is automatically going to knock a whole bunch of people out. If you're a product-based business and say you have strollers, for example, and your stroller's worth $1,500, it's really fancy schmancy, then they could potentially win that, sell that and have $1,500. But it's also where you're going to be promoting that competition. So you're going to be promoting it on channels where parents are. And if that prize peg is not a parent, then they're not going to see that competition potentially. And if they are a parent and they are a prize pig, they're still a parent. So they're still technically your ideal audience. Yes, you will occasionally get prize pigs enter, especially if your prize is really high value and has a broad appeal. But remember that prize pigs are consumers too. So there is a chance they would actually turn into a customer anyway.
So what about scammers and spammers? So these ones are, for example, I guess we've heard of scammers that are entering competitions and then somehow, I guess maybe they know the entrants, like if it's like a comment to win type thing, and they'll contact those entrants and give them a fake link to a competition that looks very similar to yours. And then obviously the scamming process starts. Do you have any tips on how to avoid those potential nightmares?
Unfortunately, this is something I've encountered once with a client, and they duplicate the social media. So in this case, they duplicated their Facebook page, they duplicated the post, and they changed a few things to say, basically, you're the winner, get in touch with us kind of thing. And that's what the phishing scam was. It was one of their customers who saw the post or who was tagged in the post or contacted by the scammer. And so they brought it to our attention. So we were able to report the page and were able to report the post. I think the biggest thing you can do, you can't stop people from being unethical. It's just, unfortunately, that's the internet. It's the bad side of the internet. But you can educate your audience. So what we did was we took a screenshot of it and we said, this is not our account. We pointed out the differences. They might add an underscore or spell something with 2 L's or something slightly different that is obvious to you that it's not you. Point that out to your audience. And also just ask them to report if you are contacted by this fake account. account, please ask them to report. And also reassure them. So we would never send your details onto a third party. We would never contact you like this to ask for any details. When we contact the winner of this competition, we will ask for your address and we will send out the prize. No credit card details needed, no whatever these scammers are trying to get. So education is probably the biggest tool that you can use to overcome scammers with competitions.
And I've seen that up front when people have been doing Instagram competitions and they've said, when we announce the prize, this is how we're going to do it. We're not going to DM you. We will put it here publicly on our account, and then we will contact you based on whatever information you got, whether that's an email address or what have you. So, yeah, like you say, just to really educate people to avoid that, because I can imagine that must be not only super frustrating for the business, but also it can be damaging to your reputation as well if people are having that negative experience with your brand.
100%. But I do think sometimes those negative experiences, it's all about the way that you respond to them. So I don't know about you guys. For example, when I'm looking at like hotel reviews, and there'll be 99% positive, and then there'll be one person who said the pillows were really uncomfortable. And first of all, you think, come on. And then second of all, you see the reply from the hotel and they bend over backwards. They don't go, well, if you don't like it, don't stay here. They bend over backwards and say, thanks so much for your feedback. Since then, we've actually implemented a pillow menu. We now offer 6 different types of pillows. So it's in how you respond to that. And if you had a scammer who duplicated your competition and you took a screenshot and reposted it and said, these bloody scammers, all they're out to do is rip you off and don't pay attention. We're the only legit ones for our, your audience are going to go, ugh, I got a bit of a bad feeling about the scammers and about you. But if you repost it and say, guys, I just want to reassure you, we will never ask for these details. Here's how you can spot a scam. You see how the username is different. You see how this is different. We would never do this. We would always do this. We always have your security and best interests at heart, kind of thing. And that reassures people. That gives that they leave with a really good feeling that you're on their side.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense to have a plan in place before you launch a competition about what you're going to do if something like this happens, how you're going to respond, maybe what the escalation process is if you have a few people in your business, and how you're actually going to manage that. Like you say, you can do it in a professional way that does reassure your audience. I'm interested because in terms of competition, I can see how if you were an e-commerce business, it makes sense to be running competitions. But what if you are a B2B business? How would you use competitions successfully as a form of marketing?
Yes, this is something that I do often get people ask me about, especially when I talk to people when they're just thinking about running a competition and they're unsure, that they want me to convince them or reassure them that it is possible. So first up, I'll say, yes, it is possible. And I want to bring it back to what I said earlier about it depends on what you want to achieve with your competition. So the competition should work for you and your business. You shouldn't shove or contort your business into a competition. So if there's something that you want to achieve as a B2B business, say, for example, one of my clients, they wanted to satisfy their sponsorship obligations. So part of the competition was giving away prizes that were donated by the sponsor. So in a sense, that's like a B2B relationship they're managing with the competition. So their goal was to make sure that they promote the sponsors during the competition. Their goal was to really highlight the prize, not that it was helping their business, but that these generous sponsors had made this competition possible. So that was the goal of their competition. So say if you're a B2B business and your goal is to increase your partnerships with other businesses, then you could ask them to do something which shows you what their business does, which gets them to explain to you how they see a partnership working, which would have you reach out to them and show them, or whatever your goal is for your business, you shape the competition and the entry method and the prize and everything to fit that goal. So it absolutely can work for B2B businesses. It's just about being conscious of who you're targeting to enter your competition and what's going to be useful and relevant and attractive to them.
So I've got to ask the question that I'm sure every single business owner has asked themselves just before they hit that launch button on their competition. What happens if my competition bombs? What strategies or I guess tactics would you suggest that they do if your competition is just absolutely tanking?
Okay, I'm going to say something which is going to sound really annoying, but there's no such thing as a failed competition. There's only learning and improving and building. So, your competition is going to give you so much information about your business, about your audience, about whether competitions work for your business, about marketing. There's so much golden information to get from competitions, especially and even more so with a failed competition. If your competition is in the process of tanking and you want to save it, I have 4 things that I would look for, and that I've had clients whose competitions hasn't quite gone as planned, and we've turned it around because I follow this process. I call it the 4 Ps, and I've written them down so I don't forget them, because when you know something so well, but then someone asks you to repeat it and you're like, shit, what was that 4th one again? So it's problems. So first of all, I look for technical problems. Is the website live? Is the form live? Can I actually enter? Get someone else to test it. Is there a technical problem that is stopping people from entering? That's obviously going to be number one, making sure people can enter. The second one is the people. So we talked a bit earlier about prize pigs. So if you're getting only prize pigs entering, if you're a female identified owned business and you want to work with other people who identify as female, and you've noticed that all of your entrants so far are male, then obviously you're not attracting the right people. So the competition is tanking because you're not reaching the right people. So you need to stop. You need to look at where you're advertising your competition. You need to look at where you're promoting your competition. Even small things like the hashtags that you're using, the imagery that you're using, who you've sent the competition to ask if they can promote it to their channels, what time of day you're posting even. For example, if I'm running a competition that's aimed at parents, there's no way I'm going to post around that 2 to 3 period. They're at school pickup. They're not going to see it. So think about your people, think about who you want to enter, and think about how you're reaching them. And if you have a look at things like analytics and insights, you can have a look on there to see what people you're reaching, what age group you're reaching, what gender they identify as, what interests they have. And that's a really key place I would go to first. If I'm targeting parents and I'm seeing social media lovers and millennials and celebrity lovers and all these things that imply to me that I'm not quite reaching my ideal demographic, then I would change where I'm showing that competition and where I'm advertising that competition and what I'm saying. So that's problem, people, and then prize. So sometimes you do launch a competition where the prize is not quite enough, as we talked about earlier, or it's not quite the right prize, or people just don't understand what the prize is. So I'd go back to basics, explain the prize, explain the benefits of the prize, explain who the prize is for, explain how the prize will be delivered, really show the prize in your imagery, really talk about that prize and what it's going to mean to them, because people aren't buying a family planner. They're not interested in a calendar. What they want is to never, ever miss a school assembly. They always want to remember that one night of the month when hubby's going to be at poker. They don't want a calendar. They want a solution to some problem in their life. Talk about that. So make sure your prize is actually communicating what benefits they're getting as well. And the final thing is the process. So the actual entry process itself. So what are you asking people to do for an entry? A little bit like we talked about earlier. Are you asking too much? Are you asking too little? Have you explained it well? You really need to break it down into step by step. So go here, enter your name, enter your email address, hit the submit button, check your email for a confirmation, break it down into super simple steps. And if it's too complicated, remove some steps. Just remove it, because asking for someone's postcode is completely and utterly irrelevant. You don't need that extra box for them to tick, and it's going to put people off. So really simplify your process. So just to recap: problem, people, prize, process. That's the process I would always go through to see what's wrong with the competition. And I've never, ever, in almost 10 or over 10 years of doing this, never been able to solve problems with the competition, never not been able to solve them with that particular process.
Amazing. Oh, I like this. I'm sure that some of our listeners are now feeling a little bit inspired to give competitions a go. But I'd love to know, because as you said, you've been doing this for 10 plus years, what style of competitions are really working at the moment? Because I know a few years ago on Instagram, there were so many of these ones where there were like 20 business owners putting in this huge prize pool, right? And they were all pushing it out on their socials at the same time. And you'd get on Instagram and every single post would be all these people that you knew pushing out the same competition. Are people still doing that? I have to say, I've not seen a lot of that happening. What's really working now in terms of competitions?
Yeah, loop giveaways. Remember those?
Yes, that's the name of them. Thank you. I
strongly,
couldn't think of the name.
I strongly dislike those competitions. So I did a bit of a study of a loop competition, and I counted that the entrants would have to do 96 actions in order to get one entry, because they had to like this person, follow this person, go to the next one, like this person, follow this person. 96 actions. That is too much. The fact that you don't see them anymore tells me absolutely everything you need to know about loop competitions. They do not work. They just do not work. They might work for the businesses and they might get you followers, but no one's going to sit and complete 96 actions. It's just not going to happen. The first few businesses in the loop, in the chain, probably did really well. But number 28, they didn't get any followers. So yes, they definitely don't work anymore. I would say, and this is a bit of a reflection of kind of the overall shift in marketing. And I would say that email competitions are where it's at and where most people are moving to, because people have really seen recently with social media that you don't own that audience. It's people do lump Facebook and Instagram in with owned when we talk about paid, owned, and earned channels. And I would always argue it's an earned channel. You earn your right to be there. You earn those followers, and they can be taken away at any time. You do not own a single follower that you have on your Instagram or Facebook account. If you have 100,000 followers plus on your Instagram or Facebook account, and those 100,000 people, or at least a good chunk of them, aren't on your email list, you need to be getting them on your email list as soon as you can, because algorithms can change, your account can be deleted or hacked. Anything could happen. They could decide to remove bots. Remember when that happened a few years ago and people's follower accounts dropped by tens of thousands, these big follower accounts, these big accounts. So I'd say, yeah, the trend is shifting away from people relying really heavily on just social media as their marketing strategy, and realizing that there is huge value in bringing people to your website, in collecting their email address, and in encouraging them to download lead magnets, in just encouraging them into your ecosystem where there are far fewer distractions. Like social media is just distraction city, and also where you can really let your products, let your services shine. So when people are on your website, it's literally 1 or 2 clicks away from purchasing or working with you. So if you can get them to your website, that's amazing. That's huge.
And I feel like there's less risk then in terms of some of those scammers, because if you're getting people to enter with their email address and then you can educate them, hey, this is how we'll let you know about the prizes with your email address, then they know if suddenly somebody's DMing them on Instagram going, you've won, that something's not quite right. So I think it's going to safeguard your competition in that way as well, by the sounds of it.
Definitely agree. Yeah.
Suki, I have learned a ton from you in this last, I think, 40 odd minutes. Thank you so much for coming on. What we're going to do now is some quick fire questions so we can get to know you a little bit better, and also just to grab a couple more tips from you. So first one off the bat is one that we have started asking every single guest. What is your top tip for busy business owning parents?
Remember why you started. So if you started your business because you wanted to make sure you can always be there for school assemblies and awards ceremonies and swimming carnivals, and then you find yourself working straight through 2 o'clock, straight through 3 o'clock, straight through 5 o'clock and to 11 o'clock at night, that's not why you started your business. So if you're feeling bad about saying to someone, I can't do a meeting at 3 p.m., I've got to be there for school pickup, don't feel bad. That is the entire reason you started your business. And if that person on the other end doesn't understand, they're not your ideal client. So always bring it back to why you started your business. For me, it's freedom. So if I'm contemplating taking on a project or a client and it feels like it would take away some of my freedom because of the amount of time it would take, or it's not a right fit, or they're asking me to do a like to win competition, then that would be a big no-no for me. So always remember why you started and follow those values. Those are really paramount.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, preach. I love that. And I think sometimes we need to be reminded of that as well. Would love to know, what's the best thing that you have ever won in a competition, or something that you've won recently, if you can't remember the best thing?
The best thing is business class flights back to the UK.
Oh,
So I used to, yeah, I used to work in travel, and so that was a very long time ago, different lifetime. And I was at an event, and I never win anything. And actually, in this job, I am prevented legally from entering any of the competitions, so my chance of winning is even lower. So I was at this event, and they were rummaging around in the fishbowl to pick the winner, and I was thinking, please, I really wanted to go back to visit home. And they pulled out, this was for the runner-up, they pulled out my colleague's name, and she was like, oh, okay, cool, I've won economy class flights, whatever. She wasn't really fast, and I was like, damn it, like, there's no way I'm going to be picked. So he put his hand back in the fishbowl and he pulled out and read my name, and I screamed because I never win anything, and I screamed and I ran up to the stage, and I'm pretty sure I hugged all of them, like in front of this professional travel event. I didn't care. I was so excited. But everyone was grinning. Everyone was so happy because they knew that I really appreciated this prize. It's obviously cost them time and money and the event to put together. So yeah, I was quite an ideal winner. So I was really appreciative of the prize. But yeah, business class flights back to London, it's definitely ruined economy for me forever, but totally worth it.
I won't ever fly economy international again. I don't think. It's once you go in business, you never, ever want to go back.
No, that is such a good prize. Oh my gosh. I won the meat raffle at footy training the other night, and I was feeling pretty chuffed. So
I would be chuffed with that too.
But now that I hear that, it's kind of, dimming the shine on that one.
I just won a competition on TikTok. I won a set of Hang Easies. So there's a Hang Easy on TikTok. They're based out in Ballina. So they're just down the road from you, Suki. And what it is, it's a hanging device so that you can put your washing basket up to your chest height on the Hills hoist or the clothes area outside. So you don't have to bend down to get your washing and stuff. So
that sounds amazing and way less clunky than a trolley.
Oh man, I saw it, I'm like, oh, my back is going to thank me. And I looked at what the entry requirements were. I'm like, dude, this is easy. I'm going to do this. You wouldn't believe the number of people who didn't adhere to the instructions. And it was so easy. Yeah. It was a tag. It was a tag or comment to win type thing. And they couldn't do it. But I won.
Yeah. It's amazing. And also that we're getting older because we're really excited by easy to save our backs when we're doing the washing. I love that.
All right. Last but not least, quick fire question. What's your favorite Killers lyric?
Okay, this is a really hard one for me.
I know.
But it's also really easy. I've got so many favorite lyrics, but I do have one absolute favorite, and it's actually relevant for business as well. So it's from a song called Bling on their second album, Sam's Town. And it's, how do you know that you're right if you're not nervous anymore? So whenever I feel nervous, I always think of that lyric, and I think, is this nervousness telling me I'm going in the right direction, or is it telling me I'm going in the wrong direction? And it does also make me think of the Mel Robbins, how your body can't tell the difference between excitement and anxiety. So if you tell yourself that anxious feeling you have is excitement, then you don't get that rush of chemicals that kind of put you in fight or flight. Yeah, it's like a good reminder when I feel that nervousness. Is it actually excitement, or am I going in the right direction? Is this nervousness telling me that I'm right?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Or nerve sighted. That's a term that Stevie Dillon uses. So when you are nervous but excited at the same time because you're onto something good. So I love that. And I love that you managed to tie it into business. That is so cool. You're the best, Suki. Oh my goodness. Now, where can people connect with you, find out more about you, engage you for your services? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
The best way is always via my website, which is origamiglobe.com. And I'm going to have to spell it for you because it's one of those things where you register the domain and then later into business you think, why didn't I choose something simpler? So it's Origami, Origami, Globe, Globe.com. And you will find hundreds of blog posts and information about competitions on there. And that's also where you'll be able to connect with me and work with me if you feel so inclined.
Well, merci beaucoup, Suki. It has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
De rien, merci.
Arigatou gozaimashita. Hey, I needed to do something too.
Oh gosh.
Cut that out.
No, I am not. No, I think that was a great way to end.
My brain was like, that's not French.
You got a Japanese name, right?
Yes.
私の日本語は上手ではないですよ。ちょっとだけお話します。
Yeah, we do not speak Japanese. Or Dutch.
We'll see.
I'm going to stop recording now.